Hello and welcome to another episode of IT Pro TV. I'm your host Mike Roderick, and with me today is Mr. Sean Oriano. How are you, Sean?
I am doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. We got another exciting episode coming your way, continuing on in our Kali Linux series, getting ready to dive into penetration testing with Kali Linux. And Sean, this is something that really Kali is designed to do, but before we get into actually using it, we kind of want to talk about the whole idea of penetration testing, right?
Yeah, this is what we're trying to accomplish here is we're trying to talk in this section about the penetration testing process and where Kali really fits in. This is going to be one of those things where for some of you it's probably a review. If you've been through CEH, you've seen the process from over there. It has been altered just slightly over here. The names are different, and as far as we're concerned here, there's been at least a couple points that have been dropped, but it looks fairly the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what the penetration process looks like, kind of when we expand it outside of just the borders of what EC Council has in CEH. We're going to expand it outside of that, and we are going to see, just how Kali fits in there and helps you accomplish it, and then kind of talk about some of the tools that help you along the way. Now, this isn't meant to actually give you the in-depth experience of each one of the tools at this point. This is just kind of to give you an idea, to make some associations of, well, these are the types of tools that you use here, these type of tools you use here, and I can tell you what they do, so you can see the types of things that would happen at that, along the way. And then we'll also, when we're doing this, just to kind of to put things straight for you, since some of you, again, with this, as far as the CEH is concerned, you may still have that in your head. You may still be looking at the videos for it and studying for that. We're going to do a little bit of compare and contrast to kind of let you know, well, that's how they do it, and this is how we do it, just so you know that there is a distinction there between what the two look like. While they may be accomplishing the same thing, they are different for all intents and purposes, at least here.
It really reminds me of like the Network Plus. CompTIA has their troubleshooting model, right? And for the exam, you've got to know CompTIA's method for doing troubleshooting. Now you get out in the real world and you might find that you don't do it exactly that way, or you read a book by some other vendor and they might tweak it a little bit or change some things around, or even call the same thing by different names. Same thing you got going on here. EC Council puts on that course, the Certified Ethical Hacker, and to pass that exam, you have to understand what they consider the hacking life cycle. You've got to understand those different phases. Same thing's going to go happen here. We're going to talk about the different phases, but they might not be exactly the same as EC Council. It doesn't mean they're any better or worse, just different vendor, right?
Yeah, that's really it. Is that there are different standards out there as far as the way the penetration testing process goes. EC Council has theirs. There's one I'm going to bring up here that's more of you can look at it as being a more sort of generic one, that it doesn't use the specific terminology that EC Council is doing. But you could really keep going out and out and out on this and say, oh yeah, there's all the different forms of penetration testing standards. In fact, what I was doing here, Mike, while you were talking, is just to, if you kind of take a look at my screen here, is what this is. The website is the pentest-standard.org, and what this is an organization that maintains documents on the pen testing process. So if you were looking to develop your own process and figure out what you need to accomplish and how you should be going about it and all that good stuff, that's what this is for. It's to kind of get you with the get you at the point where you hit the ground running, or at least get very close to it. I've seen it in numerous cases where people that are starting new to it or trying to start up a new department inside their company dealing with security, they may know the tools, but now they have to kind of figure out what their strategy is, what their plan is going to look like to use them. And so that can be a tough part. I can sit here and I can give you all these different tools, do all the penetration systems you want, but unless you have a strategy on how you're going to deploy those tools, it becomes kind of a tricky proposition at best, because you're not going to be consistent. You're going to use a shotgun approach, and who knows if you're ever going to get the same results twice off the same system. I mean, that's not a good situation. So this penteststandard.org is a good place to go to get documents in there and to start seeing how it's done and maybe refine your own approach. Like I said, once you're done with like the EC Council stuff and doing their CEH stuff, I could care less if you quote that to me again or not. It doesn't matter. You can develop your own. I mean, you're the one that you brought, Mike, about the CompTIA and their network troubleshooting. Yeah, I always looked at all the CompTIA troubleshooting processes and I'm like, I'm never gonna do that way. It's just too many steps.
It was so hard to teach some of that stuff because you're like, I would never do that first, right? That's not the first thing I would do, but you had to know for that particular vendor's exam. And this is going to be great, Sean, because I know when I open up Kali and I look at all those different tools in there, I have no idea where to start. I mean, I'm just like, which one do I use first? I don't even know where to begin. So looking forward to this. So let's take a look at, where do we start? What's our first step in the process?
Well, we've got different phases, and really what it comes down to is we have 5 phases that we are going to be going through. So we have these 5 phases, and again, they more or less match up with what's happening with what you've seen in other places. So the first one we kind of want to take a look at is really going out and gaining reconnaissance from a target. Now on the CEH side, they call this doing footprinting. Okay, I understand what the term footprint means. I just never liked it. I like reconnaissance a lot better. Gathering intel, something like that. Fine. Don't footprinting just
the military background's coming out on you there.
I don't know. Still footprint. Even before that, I was like footprinting. Okay, I understand it. Just never sat with me right. So. And anyway, that's my opinion, and since I wrote the book, it's law. So you got to deal with it. But in any case, what we've got is in Kali, what we've got is we have to have a process for gaining information. And how can we do that? Well, if you recall from the CEH, we have all sorts of open source intelligence. We have ways of going through DNS. We had ways of mapping out, starting to do an initial mapping out of networks and finding technologies that exist out there. Well, it's going to be really the same thing here. What we have in Kali is we have this information gathering pullout right here. I mean, that's how well they've organized this utility. They have this information gathering utility, and you can see it's got quite a few things in here. Identify services, open source analysis. I mean, this is open source intelligence, this OSINT that I've got open in here. The stuff in there is just it's really cool. You guys will like it when we get to that, because the amount of stuff that you can do with that. Some of these things like a case file in Maltego. You saw those. Well, you saw Maltego in the CEH course where. If you recall, we went through and we spent almost a whole day talking about that footprinting process, and did all the stuff like get this and this and this and this, and then what did I do? I said, well, let me show you the quick way to do it, and I opened up Maltego, went click, 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 and in like 5 minutes I did about 3/4 of what we had done, and over the course of that day I had done it in less than 5 minutes.
So powerful.
It was a great visualization tool. So Maltego is here. Case file is just another version of that made by the same company. They make that. It does the same type of things. But you look at some of the other ones that are on here that are really, really fascinating. The Harvester is one that can be used to look for certain files on a site and pull them down for you, so you can target it towards the domain. Great for information gathering if you want to look for PDFs or something like that. I mean, heck, remember when I was talking CEH, I was saying that people do hide files on websites. They don't link them any place, but you know that they're probably there. You just got to find them. And what the name of it is, you can actually take something like the Harvester and say, look, I know there's PDF files up there. Bring me all the PDF files from that domain, and it will go and download them.
Nice.
So it'll just go right on through it. So that's really neat. Another one that is interesting on here for doing intelligence that we're going to see as we get further down the road is this one called MetaGoofil. It's right in the middle of that list, and what's really neat about that one is that one will read the attributes and metadata on documents. So it will go out there and search for those things and tell you, hey, this is what I found. And you can imagine if you can have that thing spider a a location that has a bunch of files in it, what you might be able to extract out of that. I mean, you could find. I mean, what about these places that put? Microsoft does a lot of this. What if you say you're somebody like a Microsoft that puts white papers up there in a Word format? They do that a whole heck of a lot. Those things are just filled with metadata. And unless you specifically pull it out, and even in those cases, there's still some left behind, you could use this to go and look for that. So that's specifically designed for that. That's something that we have right here on the Linux side that can do that open source. And you can go through and do a lot of other things you can see in here. There's just so many.
Well, that's what I'm looking at, Sean. I mean, each one of those, you got like DNS analysis. That's not a tool. That's a category. And underneath that, there's 10 tools. And you go down to IDS and IPS. There's another 5 tools. Live host identification. That's a category. And there's several tools underneath that. It's amazing to me. And we haven't made it out of the first phase yet. So lots of stuff right here to do my information gathering. Now, some of these do the same thing. So it's a lot of me finding the one that I prefer or works best in my scenario. Is that how the way this works?
Yeah, there definitely is some crossover between the tools and in a number of cases. But that it's one of the things we learned in our CEH experience was that that's not a bad thing. We like to run an analysis with one tool, and then we can also verify it with another. I'm a big fan of that. So even though it would sound like, well, you only need one, I think in a lot of cases that it's good to have 2 or more that you can cross-check things. Or if one doesn't work, one may not get you the results that you want. That's when you can switch over to another one, because you just never know. What might get you the information you need, or what information may be missing. I've had plenty of tools where I've gone with one and run that test, and everything looked okay. But because I had done the experimenting that I'm telling you guys to do, I ran another one, and that one showed me other stuff that the first one didn't. And so even though this one's saying, hey, there's everything, it's like, no, it clearly isn't everything, because this showed you more stuff. Showed more stuff than you even tried to show me.
That's been the buzzword around here, around the IT Pro TV studios lately. Trust but verify. Right? Trust the tool's doing what it's supposed to do. Use another tool, verify the results. Right?
Yeah, you got to think. You're with something like this, especially. You're doing pen testing, or if you're using these tools to do forensics, especially if you're doing something like forensics, this is your whole reputation. If the information's missing, that could be the end of your career. By missing something.
Missing evidence, or telling the customer, oh, everything's good, we did the pen test, and you are not vulnerable to this stuff. And then they get attacked. Yeah, that might not be so good for your career either.
Yeah, that's going to be a bad day for you. So it definitely helps to be thorough. Now, just to kind of put some of the stuff in here on top of this is that when you go down this list, I mean, yes, there's plenty of tools in here, and we'll talk to each one of these in turn as we get through it. One of the things you'll notice that this is where you kind of have to use your own knowledge and stuff from other places. Is one of the ones we looked at in CEH was that EchoSec technology. EchoSec was allowed us to do location-based searching, incredibly detailed location-based searching. So that's not here. That's not a tool that they can actually install. That's something that's browser based. Now, it doesn't mean you couldn't just add that to your list of tools. It's something that you could definitely get and put into your list of tools and let it go. So what I'll do here is I'll go ahead and I forget it was .net. I get it right. So anyway. Hey, look over there for a second. All right. See, that's what you get when you get a team that knows each other or can do that. What I've got is I've got it up now. So what I've got is this. You may recall this again from the CEH course. This is a little different than what you saw in the CEH course. The reason is that after I did the CEH course, I was talking to the company, and they said, "Oh well, do you want the more advanced version?" I went,
Get the pro version.
yeah,
now,
yeah. I want the stuff that I can, but you could see quite a bit with this one. So, stuff that I was doing last time is I was doing, I think I typed in stuff like when I used this in the CEH course, I typed in stuff like Las Vegas, and I typed in like McCarran Airport, someplace where I knew there'd be a lot of people. So I usually choose that because it's a tourist area, and I know there's a lot of people snapping away on their phones and stuff like that. So during a pen testing process, I mean, there's no reason you couldn't do this inside of Kali. I'm doing it right here on Windows to give you a bigger view of it, but you could do the same thing inside of Kali. What you do in here is you can just, and I'm showing this, I know some of you have seen it, but I'm showing it again because I know there's probably some new people in here too to show you the type of information that we should be gathering. Is I can go and put my filters in there for my time range, and then once I've done that, I mean, this is what's really neat about it, is I can grab a section of the map and put just a window around it. And so it takes a second, and what's really neat about the one I've got, the one they've been given access to now by the wonderful people over at EchoSec. I'm not a paid endorser, as far as you guys know.
Yeah, because the free one only did, I think the free one did what, Twitter and Instagram or something like that.
This one will pull Facebook.
That one is doing Facebook and all kinds of good stuff.
So what you're seeing here, and this, and before I scroll down, I just always make the disclaimer here that this is live data. I have no idea what people post up there, so I apologize for anything a little questionable.
Right.
But anyway, great! Someone posted a donut. Filth.
Oh no, we're gonna have to bleep that one out.
Well. But there you go. You've got different things. I mean, nothing here is really exciting. There's people sitting around a pool, out there and various things. But you can see the data is actually pretty current. I mean, this stuff is today. I mean, this was taken, or this was put up here, so probably taken. Because I was told that actually from the company actually reads metadata out of this stuff, and that's where it's getting it from. So. You can see in here, it's back on the West Coast, of course, it's 2:33 back in California, so Nevada's the same time zone. So this was 10 minutes ago.
All right.
So you're getting some pretty, current stuff off of this, and you can filter this stuff down. I mean, you can take a look. Here's where people checked in using Foursquare. Well, we've got that on here. So I've got, and this is only from the last 7 days too. This is some Russian deal. So and ships, if they had a ship going down middle, it is Vegas. So it's Vegas, if any place could do it. So you can gather quite a bit of information. Now, if I was to pull this part of it out, let's go someplace else, just kind of see if I can get a little more information. I'll do Waikiki in Hawaii. Just because I'm going to Hawaii, I'm using this as an excuse to check out where I'm going to be staying, and I'm making you guys think it's actually, hey, well, hey, you're showing us a lot. But what's happening here? So it reveals information. I was actually trying to get it to pop up some Facebook stuff, but it's not doing so right now. Well, it's still bringing some things up. I can see some YouTube information up there, but you will see in some situations you will see Facebook stuff pop up on the list, and so here again, I'm seeing stuff that is relatively current. Mm-hmm. So there you go. This type of stuff is the stuff that EchoSec doesn't have a tool, Kali doesn't have a tool built in directly for it, but you can get access to it.
You got a browser.
You've got a browser. You can install the browsers that you want in there. So you can get quite a bit of stuff out of this if you really wanted to. So this is just another tool that's helpful for that.
So a lot to the reconnaissance phase. That's when we're gathering information. If we're doing that pen test, We're trying to gather. We're being a bad guy. Well, depending if you're doing a white hat or a black hat type test or what have you. But you're gathering information about your target, about your victim, if you will. A bunch of tools built right into Kali that let me do that. You got tools outside of Kali that I can access as well. So it really makes it pretty easy to start gathering that information.
Yeah, you're just again, the process that you're looking at. I mean, some of you out there probably like, oh yeah, I remember EchoSec. You know, it was done for it was done for really a good number of reasons. The big ones being that, first of all, I know some of you hadn't seen that because I see some new names in there, and that weren't with us live last time. Maybe you watched the recordings for the CEH. I don't know, but you know, if you hadn't seen it, you know, okay, now you've seen it. That's something that you have available to do reconnaissance. But you also can see that, you know, that's stuff that you can access from right inside of Kali. It's just going to go ahead and enhance it. And then another one that fits in there is the process hasn't changed. The stuff that we were taught you over in CEH, or stuff that you may already do from pen testing, the process is close enough that you should know the types of things you can be looking for at any specific spot. It's just what tools are you using to do that. You may use different tools, but you're trying to do gather the same types of information at a certain spot. So when I say you are doing reconnaissance on a target, you should know what you can reasonably expect to be gathering at that point. So that's where that fits in. Is that, yeah, things have changed into a different environment, but it's not, oh well, hey, I got to relearn everything. No, you can still use a lot of these things.
Very good, very good. All right, well, Sean, looking at the clock, it's about time to wrap up this episode. I know we talked a lot about that first phase. We got several phases to go. Anything else you want to throw in on reconnaissance before we wrap it up?
I'd say, you know, this was just a quick thing on reconnaissance. We'll talk more about the fleshing out the reconnaissance process and look at these tools for all these phases. We'll look more in depth at these tools, so don't think we're just glossing over it and saying, oh well, we're not going to cover, you know, anything except, yeah, here's a tool, here's a tool, here's a tool. Hey, see you later. Go look at CH. It's not going to be like that. If I could get paid the same amount, I'd be out of here.
Right.
So
first is the high, right? So we got that high level overview going on, and then we're going to break them down a little bit more in depth as the episodes go on. So make sure you're sticking with us for future episodes. But for now, signing off for IT Pro TV, I'm Mike Roderick.
And I'm Sean Ariano.
And we'll see you soon.